This is a Balanced Brain podcast with your hosts, Melanie Nicholson and Sean Clift.
Buongiorno, ciao, konnichiwa, hello, g'day. Hello, everyone. Sean Clift here, and I'm joined with my longtime friend and co-host, Melanie Nicholson. Why am I talking in tongues, Melanie? Because we're going international. That's right. Our first international guest from Brazil. So, Melanie, you tracked down our guest, Kasey. So why don't you introduce us?
Thanks, Sean. And it's great to have Kasey on the Balanced Brain podcast. I met Kasey back in 2014 when we were doing some consulting, and I just had been following her on Facebook and noticed last year that she was trying to get to Brazil. So that's when I really started following what she was up to since then.
So, Kasey, Brazil, what time is it there?
It is 10:20 and it's a beautiful evening, and I think the moon is full tonight. So
there you go. Thanks so much for joining after a couple of weeks of planning and scheduling and getting the technology right. We're beaming across to the other side of the world. It's 11:15 here in the morning in Brisbane. So this is very exciting. Thanks for staying up so late.
That's okay. That's fine. Thanks for having me.
Kasey, tell us what happened.
Well, it's a bit of a long story, so let's go. Crazily enough, I decided to leave Australia in the middle of the pandemic. When everything started, my partner and my young son, who was 3 at the time, were over here visiting family. And once everything kind of started happening quickly, as it did, we realised that we had to do something. My partner actually had to have an operation, so there was no option for them to get home quickly as they were advising. So it was really uncertain there for quite some time.
So, Kasey, just to clarify there, you were actually in Australia, and your husband and was it 3-year-old?
That's right. Yeah.
They were in Brazil, so you were stuck apart from each other. Wow. Okay.
Yes.
And how long were you apart for?
We were apart for 7 months exactly to the
7
day.
months, Kasey.
7 months.
Yeah.
Wow. That must have been. How old's your little one now? Nearly 4.
He's 4 now. Yeah. He's grown a lot since I've been here, so I'm really happy that I was able to make it over.
That's unbelievable. I mean, I've got my little girl turns 5 in a couple of weeks' time. I'm actually heading away for the weekend without her for the first time in ages, and I'm dreading that. How did you cope 7 months apart from your little boy? That must have been very difficult.
It definitely was difficult, but knowing that he was absolutely fine here with all of the family around him made it a lot easier. FaceTime makes that a lot easier as well.
So with FaceTime. How did you communicate in that time?
Yeah, so we'd FaceTime once or twice a day. A friend of mine who's a teacher gave me a really good idea that I could record myself reading a story. So I was doing that with his favourite stories. And generally trying not to think about it. It was a coping mechanism. Just, you have to, because there did come a point where I realised that I wanted to actually come here, which sounds so crazy. But I had a lot of reasons for making that decision. And then once I'd made that decision and I'd spoken to my partner about it, and, we'd kind of come to that realisation that that was the right thing to do. It still took another 4 months. So with no certainty that I'd get here.
Yeah.
So that was really a big risk to take, but I'm happy that I did it.
There must have been, I know from my own experience having a young child, a month is a long time. I mean, there's so many changes that the children go through developmentally and looks-wise and just their general personality, that you must have felt as though you missed out on so much, or were you able to come up with ways where you felt as though you didn't?
Again, I think the big saving grace was FaceTime. So because of the time difference, we're 13 hours apart, Brisbane and Sao Paulo. So we'd always do the waking up and going to bed
Yeah.
for Charlie. So, you know, there was always, I was there in the morning and there at the end of the day. And if there was something else happening, we could always call each other. It's not easy, and it's not something that we planned on. We planned for them to be away for a few weeks.
Yeah.
So and they're focused in the moment more than we are. He's actually has started bringing it up sometimes, you know, mummy, when you tried to get here, oh, mummy, you came. So it's definitely there. And it's hard to explain to young children all of the complexities about this huge thing that's happened. So the way that we explained it was, we said that the planes were broken, which was the easiest way we could think of. And obviously, as he gets older, we'll be able to show him everything that we went through to get back together again.
And Kasey, in terms of your, I guess, with your partner Carlos, like, how did you? I guess that's the foundation of the household in terms of, you know, having a child. So how did you go with that, with Carlos, with communicating and I guess parenting from other sides of the world? How did you navigate that?
Well, I would actually have to say that he was parent 24/7 for 7 months, pretty much without a break. So kudos to him. And he did very well. But yeah, that's a really hard one to answer, actually. I think you just keep the communication open, and you know, him and his family are very good with that. So if he fell over and got a scratch, or you know, they'd be letting me know exactly what was happening with him all the time. So I never felt that you know, there was something happening that I didn't know about, or there was a decision being made that I wasn't included in. So that was good.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's it's such a hard thing to do when you're not the other side of the world, you know, to have that really good communication. So important.
And what about language?
Lucky.
Sorry, Kasey. What about language? So Portuguese is the main language in Brazil. And I know that I can see from on Facebook the last few years that you are able to converse in Portuguese. I've seen you doing that with your family members. But in terms of being over there and what's that like at the moment, having actually living in the country and using that language?
It's that's been the biggest challenge for me, because I'm a social person. I love to talk. I find people really interesting. And when I got here, and you know, you feel stupid because you're not able to communicate. So even though I was able to say a little bit, the hardest thing I actually found at the moment is everyone's wearing a mask.
Yeah.
So you know, you go to a shop and you can't understand what someone's saying in another language. It's really hard. But you know, it does take time, and you have to just commit a little bit every day to learning the language. Then you kind of get to a point where things just start to gel a little bit more, and that's a really, really nice feeling. So it's almost, you can almost liken it to, you know, if someone has had a stroke and they're in their recovery and they're having a day where they're very tired. They don't seem there as much. And I can definitely say, when you're having a tired day in another country, your ability to understand or even talk goes as well. So it's good to be rested. And yeah, sometimes you just need to take time out by yourself, and that's fine. But yeah, it's the family. I'm very lucky with my in-laws and the family here, and everyone actually. So that's made it a lot easier for me.
So what about the cultural differences, Kasey? What have some of the struggles been, and some of the things that you really love, and the differences?
I think everything is so different at the moment. Even here, things aren't happening because they're not completely shut down, although we have had full lockdowns here as well, but people just aren't going out. So a lot of the usual things that would be happening aren't happening. A lot of, you know, Brazilians love to party, and, you know, the parties can go on for a couple of days, and a lot of people attend those parties, but it's just not happening at the moment. So, but yeah, culturally, there are a lot of differences. I guess food is quite different. There's a lot of beautiful fruit around too. Everything's just gigantic. Yeah, we've got an avocado tree just by the house here, and I think it's about 4 stories high, the tree. So it's
that'd be worth millions in Australia, an avocado tree.
It's your house deposit times 10.
So, Kasey, tell me about your business. You had a business here in Australia before you made the big move. So tell us how that worked.
So I was already working remotely. In fact, I've been doing that for a very long time now, probably since about 2007. So I've been working in remote areas around Australia. But obviously, since I had Charlie, I was doing a lot of that work from Brisbane. So again, I approached my client and just said that this is what I wanted to do, although there were no guarantees that I'd be able to do that. And they were very gracious in saying, sure, if it's, not going to make any difference, then let's go. So I was able to let them know a few days before. I think it was 4 days or a week before I left that I knew I was able to go after 3 cancelled flights.
Right.
And so it was just business as usual. So most of the work I did when I could, and obviously there were a few hours at night time, and it just kept going.
So how did you set up over there, Kasey, with that? Like, obviously you would have had office and you had your computer and everything. So how did you set up over there, like hit the ground running with that?
Very simple. I've always had a laptop. So I've worked in, everywhere from, an airport hangar to, under a tree in remote places and everywhere in between. So it's still the same. I have me and my laptop and a VPN. So you're making sure that your access is secure and you go from there. So it's really interesting at the moment, obviously, with the changes with COVID as well, because remote working is becoming a normal thing. And I think that's a wonderful thing. It gives us freedom to, where we live and all of those kinds of things for people. So it's cutting down on time that they might be traveling to work as well. So there's so many flow-on effects from these big changes that have happened. And I think, it's looking for, all of the positives that have come out of this awful time.
And just on that, Kasey, we've talked a little bit about, things like meditation, exercise is really important. So in terms of what you did for your spiritual health, as well as your mental health, what can you tell us a little bit about what's worked for you in this uncertain time, I guess, that has helped you?
Yeah, I think it's definitely, when you're having a hard time with something, it's breaking things down. So, you might have a huge thing that you need to achieve or a period of time that you need to get through. And sometimes you need to just break it down to achievable things that you might do on a day. So even on a day where you don't feel like doing much, you can just achieve 1 or 2 things off that list, and that gives you that sense of achievement. But definitely for me, spending time outdoors is really important too. I found that the thing that helped me a lot was going walking in the forest around the Gold Coast hinterland. So that was really good.
Yeah, beautiful spot.
Just beautiful. So and just spending time with good people as well. So important. Really, really important.
So Kasey, now you've got the opposite issue. You're now in Brazil. Like how are you connecting back to Australia, and what's the future looking like? Like what obviously that it's hard to make plans, but what's some of the challenges you face now that you're in Brazil and you've got Australian clients, you've got Australian families? How's that working for you?
That side of it's pretty good. I think the biggest challenge, like anyone overseas at the moment is having, is what's the right thing to do? Are we going to try and get back home? Do we stick it out? That is very, very hard for people. Even someone like myself, where it was my decision to come here, you're still in 2 minds a lot of the time. And it's quite emotional because you have so many people who tried to do the right thing and, they still can't get home. So that's really, really hard.
Yeah, I mean, but it was your decision. But I mean, really, what other option did you have? I mean, you couldn't just stay here while your husband and your 4-year-old child are living the other side of the world. You didn't really have a choice, did you?
Well, I guess it depends who's kind of answering that question. But for me, I knew what I wanted to do, as crazy as it sounds. And really looking back in hindsight now, I know it was the right decision because, there are so many people that just haven't been able to get back. So for us, it's just about, for me emotionally, there's absolutely no way I could try and do that all over again right now because it's so taxing and so uncertain, and it's getting worse by the day. So we'll make the best of where we are now. And, it really is wonderful. We all have our bad days, but, you have to look back and go, okay, the worst things that I've been through, actually, I'll use that as my driving force. So that's what we do.
So, Kasey, you were saying when we were sort of chatting on email before this interview that you're probably going to be over there, you think for around 12 months, but you're not sure. As you said, it's quite uncertain. But in terms of, and making long-term plans is really hard at the moment. So as you have referred to, it's just every day doing little bits, but that you're still sort of looking to the future, I guess, to plan. And how does that feel at the moment in terms of where you are at right now?
Depends on the day. Some days I'm ready to accept things as they are. Other days I just will have a cry. Other days I will put things in planning as best I can. So, you can speak to anyone in that position, and, it's not easy either way because there's people still at home that are waiting for loved ones to come back. So neither way is easy, but good times will come back again, and we all must remember that.
Yes.
And we'll be ready to celebrate when they do.
Well, I was in Brazil a couple of years ago, and they definitely know how to party. I was actually in Copacabana, and they were just massive. Every Sunday there would be all the families would come out and dancing. So I think that would be quite a change in Brazil from being, staying in your home and that, because it's not the culture that does that.
No, absolutely not. And we actually went to the beach for New Year's Eve, and they said, no fireworks, and there were fireworks going the whole night, and it was just people's own fireworks. I'm like, wow, this is great. I really like that. Yeah.
So what's some of the other things that you're really loving while being there in Brazil?
I think definitely where we are at the moment, there is a beautiful sense of freedom for the kids. So we're in a gated community, so we're very, very fortunate. So the children here have a very they've just got a really fun life, and they're very safe. So we absolutely know that that's not the case everywhere here. A very, very strong sense of family, probably because we're a little bit out of Sao Paulo city. So my partner's family has been here for a very, very long time. So that's really nice too. Look, it depends where you come from. Some people wouldn't like that. But I'm very lucky with my in-laws. So yeah, grateful for that too.
So what's some of the things you think, some things that they do here, geez, I wish we did that in Australia. What would they be?
Oh God, look, I think I love to plan things, and I like to know what's happening. I guess I'll say that. And I'm really learning how to just go on the fly a little bit more, and this is happening, especially socially. They don't plan things like we do. So right. I think we should take that on board a bit more.
Well, I think that's the future, isn't it, really? Like this, if anything, last year and this year has proven to us that it really does come down to actually, you can't plan a lot of things at the moment all around the world. So perhaps that's a learning for humanity, like to just be, that might really support the idea of just being present, which I think in the Western world is harder to achieve. But I think that is a lesson for a lot of people around the world that's come out of this.
Yeah, and we're not in control. And I think, I remember saying to my mum years ago, we've had it so lucky for so long.
Yeah.
We've never been through, especially in Australia, we've never really been through any severe hardship in the last few generations. So, and here we are, we're all getting tested now. So we have to make our future generations proud of us, don't we?
Yeah, definitely. So, Kasey, you've been through enormous change over the last 18 months. What are the lessons? What are the lessons that you can give to other people who are going to experience change or going through change themselves? What do you think are the main things that you've learned?
You have to just hold on while the storm's happening. Just hang in there. It will pass, and you can always reach out to other people. It's amazing what happens when you reach out to other people. It really is. And I know that when I was going through this awful rigmarole to get here, I actually had to prove our relationship all over again. So I was running across government offices everywhere, and people were so kind. Honestly, they just once they know what's happening, they can't do enough to be helpful. So that's a good thing to know. Sometimes the world just feels like a cruel place, but actually it's not. Yeah.
So what's giving you hope? What's the hope for the future now?
Oh, for me, look, I've been traveling for so long, and we've had so much uncertainty. I'm looking forward to a very boring existence for a little while, and I'm looking forward to growing some vegetables, having some chickens, and not having a suitcase that's ready to go. Yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to.
And Kasey, in terms of your work, what changes do you think you will make in the next 12 months? Even with the way you work and how you work and what you're taking on, like, given what's happening?
I think, look, when you look at someone that's actually, been successful in or they've had an unusual story, they've actually used that circumstance as their driving force. And, I've always had all these different ideas of, different things to do, but I think this is actually the key. And it's been interesting because I've been talking to people from lots of different countries about the future of remote work, and there's so many innovative things happening about what we're accepting in work. And if we think about what 9 to 5 used to be, that was brought in the Industrial Revolution, so people could work in the daylight, and it's like we don't even need to do that. So companies can look at those different ways of working and actually attract the very best people. And how exciting is that?
Yeah, I can see how exciting it is, and it opens up a whole world of opportunities and a whole world of challenges as well. I mean, like you say, really the option to work from anywhere creates a situation where anyone can go for any job. So there's some big challenges to look at as well.
Yeah, and even looking at women working as well. It if you're working at home, you have other things that you can be doing, and that's something that I've certainly enjoyed, being able to get my house ready before I start work, and then I can pop something on for dinner, and by the time I'm finished work for the day, I'm feeling like everything's in order, and that's been really nice for me. I've loved working in all different places, but I've also loved working from home as well.
All right, Kasey, it's been so great to catch up. And we know that, you've got other things to get on to tonight, including getting some sleep so late over there. But you've been through such massive challenges, and you've had such, positive experiences and negative experience. And on the Balanced Brain, we're all about hope, and we're all about inspiration. So I'd love to sort of wrap up our chat by running through what's been the positives out of it all. What have you learned? What's the positives? What can you take away from it?
I think one of the best things was actually going through the whole process of trying to get here. It sounds ridiculous, but I felt alive, and I felt it was the best thing. Just it was a purpose. It was such a strong purpose, and
okay, great.
it's one of the best things that I've ever done. So it doesn't mean that it was easy. It was not easy.
Yep.
But it was absolutely fantastic in that way. And I can honestly say when Charlie grows up that he'll know that his mum did everything to get to him, and that's a really good feeling.
Oh, that is a very, very, very positive thing to end on. I really like that message. I mean, the sense of purpose is so critical, I think. And if you've got a real sense of purpose in things, it sort of doesn't matter what the challenges are, because you can get through, because there's that light at the end of the tunnel. And you're right, Kasey, your little boy, Charlie, will look back and know that his mum did everything. And that's such a powerful thing. Thanks so much for joining us, Mel.
So much,
you got anything to wrap up, Mel?
No, thank you so much, Kasey, for sharing that story. I know it's, that takes a level of vulnerability too, to share the story and getting it out to the world. But I think people who are listening are going to really connect with that story and hope, because I think that's what a lot of people are looking for now, and what's the next step and what's the next stage. So thank you so much, Kasey, for your openness and honesty.
Thank you both so much for having me.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for listening. Thanks, Kasey. Thanks, Melanie, again, for your effort with all the planning. Thanks for staying up so late over there, Kasey. It's been wonderful for me to meet you and to chat. And best of luck with everything. I know you've got some challenges in the future on what you're going to do, but I'm sure you guys are going to have a great time over there and make the most of it.
Absolutely. That's what we're here for.
Fantastic. Okay. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll catch you all again soon.